Aloha!
OMG, hi guys!
It's Mr. Creighton.
And Mrs. Klein.
And we're here with your third and final podcast for this lesson. It's titled The Legacy of Roman Language and Writing. An especially important legacy for Rome, for people in medieval times, was the Romans' language, Latin. After the fall of the empire, Latin continued to be used by scholars and the Roman Catholic Church. Church scribes used Latin to create important documents. Educated European nobles learned Latin so they could communicate with their peers in other countries. Latin remains extremely influential. Several modern European languages developed from Latin, including Italian, Spanish, and French.
English has borrowed heavily from Latin, both directly and by way of French. In fact, we still use the Latin alphabet, although Latin has 23 letters and English has 26. You can see the influence of Latin in many of the words we use today. For example, our calendar comes from the one adopted by the Roman ruler Julius Caesar. The names of several months come from Latin. Many English words also start with Latin prefixes. Look at the chart that's on pages 12 and 13, and you'll see other English words come from Latin root words. Even Latin proverbs are still in use. For example, if you look at the reverse side of a U.S. penny, you'll see the U.S. motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one.
Finally, we still use Roman numerals, which is a system that uses letters to write numbers. You might spot Roman numerals on buildings and in some movies and television credits to show the year in which they were made.
All right, you guys, the fifth section is entitled The Legacy of Roman Philosophy, Law, and Citizenship. Roman philosophy, law, and ideas about citizenship were greatly influenced by the Greeks, but the Romans made contributions of their own that they passed on to future generations.
All right, the next heading, a philosophy called Stoicism. A Greek school of thought that was especially popular in Rome was Stoicism. Stoics believed that a divine, godly intelligence ruled all of nature and that a person's soul was a spark of that divine intelligence. To the Stoics, the one truly good thing in life was to have a good character, which meant having virtues such as self-control and courage. Stoics prized duty and the welfare of their community or others over personal comfort.
I like Stoics. What about you, Mr. Creighton?
I love Stoics.
All right, moving on to law and justice. Roman law covered marriages, inheritance, and contracts, agreements between people, as well as countless other areas of daily life. Another legacy of the Romans was the Roman idea of justice. The Romans believed that there was a universal law of justice that came from nature, and that by this natural law, every person had rights. Like people everywhere, the Romans did not always live up to their ideals, but the ideals of the Roman law and justice live on.
All right, the final section is citizenship. When Rome first began expanding its power in Italy, to be Roman was to be a citizen of the city-state of Rome. Over time, however, Rome's leaders gradually extended citizenship to all free people in the empire. All citizens were subject to and protected by Roman law, enjoyed the same rights, and owed allegiance, loyalty to the emperor. The idea of citizenship as both a privilege and a responsibility has descended from Roman times to our own.
All right, you guys, now we're going to move on to the lesson summary. In this lesson, you've explored the rich legacy of ancient Rome. The Roman Empire fell more than 1,500 years ago, but it left a lasting influence throughout Western culture that you experience nearly every day. Philosophy, law, and citizenship. Roman ideals, such as the philosophy of Stoicism, rule of law, and justice, shape the law codes and government structures of many nations today. Examples of the continuing influence of Roman ideas include today's law courts, written law, such as the U.S. Constitution, and our representative government.
Looking at language and writing, many words and word parts in modern languages, including English, French, and Spanish, developed from the Roman language Latin. Roman numerals appear today on clocks, in books, and in TV and movie credits.
Last but not least, art, architecture, and engineering. Artists still follow Roman styles in sculpture, mosaics, glass, and other art forms. Roman influences are seen in the arches, domes, and vaults of many modern churches, banks, and government buildings. The Romans also were talented engineers whose construction methods and standards lasted thousands of years.
All right, guys, you're going to have a lesson quiz on this coming up pretty soon. It might be tomorrow, it might be in a couple days. On the online textbook, please make sure you use the activities at the end of each lesson to review.
Yeah, the section review definitely have little things that you could do to, remind yourself and go over the content. Don't forget to also click on that main idea button as well, and it'll help you focus in on the main ideas of each of the sections.
Your podcast notes and your reading notes will also help your review.
Definitely. All right, you guys, that was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Aloha.